You know that feeling when you check your bank account at the end of the month and you're like, where did it all go? You didn't buy anything crazy, you didn't go on vacation, you didn't splurge on some big purchase, you just lived, and somehow money just disappeared. Yeah, that's what we're talking about today. My name is Ben, and I spend way too much time thinking about the small, everyday decisions that are quietly draining people's bank accounts. If you're someone who feels like you're doing okay, but never actually getting ahead, like you're running on a treadmill that's moving just slightly faster than your legs, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this actually helps you out. All right, let's get into it. So here's the scenario. $20. That's it. That's the whole trick. And I know what you're already thinking. Ben, $20 is nothing. $20 is a lunch. $20 is 2 coffees and a snack. $20 is not going to fix my finances. And honestly, I get it. That reaction makes complete sense. But here's the thing. That reaction right there is exactly why most people never build any real savings, and I want to walk you through why. There's a concept in behavioral economics called the what the hell effect. Researchers at the University of Toronto studied it and found that once people feel like they've already broken a small rule or missed a small goal, they tend to completely abandon the whole effort. Like you go over your lunch budget by $5 and then your brain says, well, today's already a wash, might as well get dessert. And that one domino knocks over everything else. $20 isn't just $20, it's a psychological anchor. And once you understand that, everything about how you manage money starts to shift. Now, most people approach saving money by trying to make one big dramatic change. They decide they're going to cut out eating out completely. They cancel every subscription at once. They go full monk mode on spending, and then 2 weeks later, they're burned out and back to where they started, sometimes worse. Look, I've seen this pattern over and over again. The dramatic overhaul almost never works long term, and there's actual research to back that up. A study published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that people who set smaller, more flexible goals were significantly more likely to stick to them than people who set rigid, all-or-nothing goals. So the problem isn't your discipline, the problem is the strategy. You've been told to swing for the fences when what actually works is consistently making contact, and that's where the $20 trick comes in. Here's what most people don't realize. The goal isn't to save $20 once. The goal is to use $20 as a recurring pattern interrupt. Let me explain what I mean. Every single week, you take $20, cash, not a transfer, not a note on your phone, actual physical cash, and you put it somewhere inconvenient. A jar, an envelope in your drawer, a separate savings account that takes 2 days to transfer out of, somewhere that creates just a little bit of friction before you can access it. $20 a week is $1,040 a year. But here's where it gets really interesting, because once that habit is locked in, and behavioral psychologists say it takes somewhere between 18 and 66 days to cement a habit, not the old 21-day myth, once it's locked in, something interesting happens. People consistently report that they naturally start finding other small ways to reduce spending almost without trying. We're talking an average additional $20 to $40 a week in incidental savings that people don't even consciously plan for. So now you're not at $1,040 anymore. You're looking at $2,000 or more per year from a habit that started with $20. So why does this work when big dramatic plans don't? It comes down to something called identity-based habit formation, which sounds fancy, but it's actually a really simple idea. When you successfully do something small and consistent, your brain starts to build a story about who you are. Instead of, I'm someone who's bad with money, you start to become, I'm someone who saves every week. And once that identity shift happens, the behavior almost defends itself. You don't want to break the streak. You don't want to contradict who you've become. James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, a book I genuinely recommend, talks about this a lot. He says every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Putting that $20 away on a Friday isn't just about the money, it's a vote. It's you telling yourself a different story. And stories, it turns out, are what actually drive financial behavior way more than spreadsheets ever will. All right, let me show you the real math here because I want this to be concrete. $20 a week, every week, for 1 year equals $1,040.
Now, if you put that into a high-yield savings account, and right now there are accounts offering somewhere between 4 and 5% annual interest, which is genuinely good compared to historical norms, that $1,040 grows a little bit just in year one. But let's play it out over 5 years with consistent contributions. You're looking at roughly $5,600 to $5,900, depending on the rate, with compound interest doing its quiet, boring, beautiful thing in the background. Now add in that secondary effect we talked about, the extra $20 to $40 per week people tend to save once the habit is established, and over 5 years you could be looking at $10,000 to $12,000 that simply did not exist before. Not because you got a raise, not because you found some crazy investment, because of a $20 weekly habit and the psychological domino effect it triggers. That's not hype, that's just arithmetic.
Now you might be thinking, okay, Ben, but I literally don't have $20 to spare at the end of the week. And I want to take that seriously because I know for a lot of people that's a real thing, not an excuse. So here's what I'd say to that. If $20 is genuinely not available, then 10 is fine. 5 is fine. The amount matters less than the consistency and the friction. What you're building is the infrastructure of the habit. The money follows the structure, not the other way around. There's actually a study from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that found people who automated even tiny amounts of savings, we're talking as low as $5 a week, were 3 times more likely to report feeling financially stable than people who didn't, even when their incomes were similar. Think about that. The feeling of financial stability is, in large part, a behavioral outcome. It's not just about the number in your account. It's about the relationship you have with your money. Here's something that usually surprises people when I bring it up. The biggest financial drain for most people in the 25 to 65 age range isn't rent, it isn't car payments. It's what researchers call low salience spending, purchases you make so automatically and so frequently that you genuinely don't register them as spending decisions at all. A 2022 survey by Slick Deals found that the average American spends about $314 per month on impulse purchases. That's over $3,700 a year on stuff that, if you ask them about it 3 days later, they often couldn't even clearly recall buying. The $20 cash trick actually disrupts this pattern in a very specific way. When you're handling physical cash and you've designated some of it as untouchable, you become more aware of the cash that is touchable. Studies consistently show that people spend less when using physical cash compared to cards or digital payments. One study from MIT put the difference at spending up to 100% more with credit cards versus cash for the same purchases. So part of what this trick is doing is resensitizing you to the actual feeling of spending money, which modern payment systems have deliberately made invisible. Let me tell you about a situation a lot of people will recognize. Imagine someone, let's call her Maya, 34 years old, decent job, renting an apartment, not struggling in any dramatic way, but never quite saving either. Every month she tells herself she'll start saving when things calm down at work, or after the holidays, or once she pays off that one credit card. Sound familiar? That's most people, honestly. Maya tries the $20 cash trick on a Tuesday in February. Not January 1st, no big resolution, just a random Tuesday. She folds a 20 and puts it in an envelope in her kitchen drawer. The next week, she does it again. 6 weeks in, she notices she started packing lunch twice a week, not because anyone told her to, but because she's just a little more aware of her money now. By month 4, she's got $380 in that envelope and $240 in behavioral savings she didn't plan for. She opens a high-yield savings account. Suddenly, there's a number growing somewhere that didn't exist 6 months ago. That number becomes real to her, and real things feel worth protecting. This is where it gets really interesting, because what I just described with Maya isn't just about saving money. It's about building what psychologists call financial self-efficacy, the belief that your actions actually have an impact on your financial life. And this matters enormously because a 2021 study from the National Endowment for Financial Education found that people with high financial self-efficacy were significantly more likely to invest, significantly more likely to plan for retirement, and significantly less likely to carry high-interest debt.
The $20 habit isn't the destination, it's the on-ramp to an entirely different relationship with money. Once you've proven to yourself that you can consistently do one small financial thing, the mental barrier to doing the next thing drops dramatically. Opening a Roth IRA suddenly feels less scary. Increasing your 401k contribution by 1% feels manageable. None of this is magic. It's just what happens when you break the cycle of financial inaction with something small enough to actually start. Look, I'm not going to tell you that $20 is going to solve everything. Life is expensive, things come up, and personal finance is genuinely complicated for a lot of people. But here's what I do know. The single most common thing I hear from people who finally started getting their finances together is some version of, "I wish I had just started earlier." Not bigger, not smarter, just earlier. So here's your action step, and it's the only one I want you to take today. This week, not next month, not after you've done more research, this week, take $20 in cash and put it somewhere inconvenient. That's it. That's the whole assignment. See how it feels. See what it does to how you think about the other money in your wallet. Because sometimes the smallest, most boring decision is the one that actually changes the trajectory. Give this video a thumbs up if it gave you something to think about, and I'll see you in the next one.